Hi, good morning. I'm Michael Shore. I'm head of Mattel's Global Consumer Insights Group. And I'm here to set the stage for some exciting new product launches by taking you through some of the foundational insights that we use to inspire new toy designs, as well as some recent research results around a topic it's a pretty hot topic within the toy industry these days, the impact of new technology on traditional toy play. So before I get to that, what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about the Insights organization. So I've been with Mattel for about 16 years, and during that time we've invested a considerable amount in understanding our consumer. We actually speak with well over 300,000 kids and parents in any given year. We've conducted research in over 25 different countries, and our staff has research experts, child development experts, as well as those who are skilled in innovation processes. So one area of focus that we've really been putting a lot of attention against has been the rise of new technologies in the world of play and new play platforms. And actually, this is an area of interest that has been in the news considerably over the past few months. And actually, if you take a look at some of the headlines that have come out, if you actually believe the articles that are behind some of these sensational headlines, you might think that the future of the toy industry might look something like this. Oh, yes, well, I'm here to say that this is really not the case. This is not where it's going. Yes, kids are playing with a lot of different things, but the right kinds of toys that deliver the right type of benefits will continue to endure along with the rise of these new digital technologies and platforms. So what I'll do is I'll take you through some of the foundational insights around kids' play to kind of explain why toys still matter. All right, let's start with one of the most basic findings, right? Among kids between the ages of 2 and 10, nearly every child plays with a toy. Okay? Now, the time they spend using these toys can vary depending on what time of year. I mean, typically we like to look at weekends as a fairly stable occasion, and what we see is on any given weekend day, a child has about 5 hours for fun, right? In addition to activities of daily living, such as running errands, going shopping, doing chores, sleeping is another activity. I mean, while I would consider that my favorite leisure time activity, sleeping, a kid, when we look at the leisure activities that they're engaged with, we see that it can be broken down into a couple different areas. It's broken down into something we call unstructured leisure time, as well as structured leisure time. Now, unstructured leisure time, those are the activities that a kid chooses to do on their own for fun. Structured leisure activities are more like going to birthday parties, going to a special sporting event or a special destination. And when we look at the time kids spend on unstructured leisure activities, we see that after TV and after outdoor play, the next most common type of play activity is digital play and toy play. In fact, the amount of time kids spend on these two activities are pretty similar on any given weekend day. It's about an hour, right? So we may look at this trend and say, wow, digital play, is this a trend we need to be concerned about? This interest seems pretty strong. Well, and especially so when you start looking at the ages of kids and what types of activities they enjoy. So here's some other data that shows as kids get older, this intersection, this interest in digital play increases, and by about the age of 7 or 8, it's on par with their interest in toy play. Okay? So again, should we be concerned? And yeah, we'd be concerned if this was new. But to be honest, this data, this pattern of interest is not new. It's actually existed for decades, and it accompanied the rise of the video game industry. And I've actually got data, because we've been doing this for a while, I've got data from 2006 that shows a similar pattern of interest, right? Where you see the intersection of interest in digital play intersecting with the interest in toy play at about the same age, 7 or 8, and this is almost from 10 years ago. So, the age dynamic really hasn't changed that much, which is why then, when we look at recent data about how kids spend or how much time kids spend at play, we see that the amount of time they spend playing with toys has been pretty stable over the past year, in spite of the exponential rise of new technology. Digital play has gone up, but it really hasn't affected time spent playing with toys. It also has not really affected the amount of money parents spend on toys. So we see here that the dollars spent are pretty flat, and the dollars spent on digital are considerably less than toys, but also have been flat over the past year. Okay, so how does this dynamic work? How does it increase in digital play, and yet we still see stable interest in toy play? Well, that I will explain by taking a look at the different type of technologies that are underlying the kids' interest in this new digital play, what they're used for, and when they're used. Okay, let's start with the technologies. Now here's a kid's typical room, well maybe not so typical, but it's a room filled with all the different types of devices that kids use, the different types of technologies. And what's interesting is the top devices that are being used, that are owned by kids, are not really behind the increase in digital play. So those traditional devices like TV sets, laptops, computers, those devices are used by a number of kids, but the real devices that are driving this new digital play interest are these emerging platforms, such as tablets and smartphones. Both have experienced double-digit increases in the past year. Both have gone up about 16% in terms of usage. So that when we look at this table that we saw earlier, we see that among the kids who play with toys, now about 75% of them also are engaged with these smart devices. This is an increase, of about 25% over the past year. So it's gone from 50% of kids using these devices to 75%. So what we also see is that these devices are being used more by older kids. So this increase is really driven by older kids' interest. So by the age of 9 or 10, we see that penetration is even higher. But what's interesting is the reason we see this higher penetration among older kids is because the type of activities they can engage with, there are a lot more of them. So when we look at the list of activities that a 10 to 12-year-old uses, we see it's a pretty long list. Now, play activities are an important part of that. They like playing with games, but they also like watching TV content and listening to music. So in fact, what we see is playing with games, watching TV, listening to music are some of the most common activities for these devices. So then it's not that surprising when we look at the rise or the increase in these multifunctional devices like tablets and smartphones, we're also seeing a corresponding decline in single-purpose devices, such as e-readers or TVs or music players or laptops. So essentially what's happening are one screen are replacing other screens. It's screen replacing screens. Now, the purpose of these screens are not just about play. So while the one screen is replacing multiple screens, the purpose isn't just play, but it's also about content consumption, right? It's about watching TV, watching videos, taking in content. So that's why when we see the rise in digital, we're not necessarily seeing a direct impact on toy play. The other reason why these two types of play platforms stand apart has to do with the occasions they're used. We know, talking from moms, that they really appreciate toys for the social play, for kids getting together with other kids during their free time to play with toys, right? They view that as better for toys. When we talk about these digital devices, we see that they're being used for new play occasions. They're actually opening up incremental play occasions. They're being used on the go. They may be used at a restaurant, in a waiting room of the doctor's office. So when we walk around and we see kids' noses buried in these devices, it's not necessarily toy time that they're taking place of, but it's opening up these entirely new play occasions. So it's really incremental. All right, then the last thing that I want to talk about that really speaks to the differentiation of toys versus smart devices are the benefits that they offer, okay? This is something that's called a perceptual map. So in this map, what we see is really the statistical difference between toys and these smart devices. And what this shows is that moms really associate very different benefits with each play platform. With toys, they associate such benefits as social play, active play, creativity, imagination, a sense of belonging, pride of accomplishment. All these things, these are the types of benefits that make moms feel like good moms. Now, they also associate benefits with tablets and smartphones, but they're very distinct. They're viewed as offering a lot of great value. They're viewed as learning aids, teaching different subjects, which is why we've seen a lot of impact in the electronic learning toy category. But I think the other thing that these smart devices and tablets own is they're viewed as cool right now by kids. They're really aspirational. They've somewhat established a new benchmark for consumer engagement. But that engagement can be used to increase interest in toy brands and traditional toy play. And I think you're going to see examples of that with the presentations that are coming up. Okay, so I started this presentation off by talking about, kids and what that might look like in the future and their interaction with toys. And what I'd like to finish with is another picture of the kid. We know that these children are digitally engaged, digitally immersed in digital play. But what we also know is that when you go into a kid's room, you are not necessarily going to see an app hanging on their wall, right? Displayed on their shelves as a marker of who they are, what they love, and as markers of their childhood experience. For that, you will continue to see toys, and toys will endure. And I think what you're going to see now is a collection of some great toys that really deliver on the benefits that we know are uniquely associated with toys. Toys that will stimulate imagination, creativity, sense of belonging, pride of accomplishment, and the new platforms that we can leverage to really keep kids engaged. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kathy Klein, who's going to take you through our preschool products.